Well, here in Germany, lawmakers have been debating the likely next chancellor's plans to transform restrictive borrowing rules. Conservative leader Friedrich Merz hopes to gain support for a massive boost to defence and infrastructure spending. Even with the support of likely coalition partners, the centre-left Social Democrats, the initiative still lacks the two-thirds majority needed to get through Parliament. So Friedrich Merz has still some convincing to do.
Historic times call for historic measures. That was the message from Friedrich Merz, the man likely to soon lead Germany. His pitch to Parliament: Donald Trump has turned the world upside down. Germany must now borrow billions to fund defence and infrastructure.
Independent of elections and parliamentary sittings, this Germany must be ready to defend itself. And Germany needs to be back on the international stage as a reliable partner in Europe, in NATO and in the world.
His would-be coalition partners in the next government agree. Lars Klingbeil appealed to MPs to answer the call of history.
There is now a package on the table that massively invests in our security, massively supports Ukraine, invests in climate protection and economic growth in our country. And let's take another step back and ask, can we really afford that to fail? My clear answer is no.
Trouble is, he needs the support of the Greens, and they have a different answer. They've long called for debt reform and massive investment, and accused Merz of opportunism after rejecting their offers.
You chose a different path. You rejected this offer several times for a very simple reason. The reason was party tactics, the reason was political calculation, and the reason was electioneering.
The far-right AfD have filed a complaint at the Constitutional Court. They say the decision should be made by the next Bundestag, due to be sworn in at the end of the month.
Because the election result doesn't suit you, you're calling in the old Bundestag once more, with the forces that were voted out and punished by the voters. With their help, you want to tie the hands of the newly elected federal parliament with billions in additional debt. This approach shows your disregard for the will of the voters.
Merz now waits to see what the courts say. Until then, he must win over the Greens. Failure would be an ominous harbinger of tumultuous years to come.
Well, that report from our political correspondent Matthew Moore, who joins us now. Welcome, Matt. Is Friedrich Merz likely to get the Greens to agree on this issue of changing Germany's strict borrowing limits?
That's the big question that everyone really is asking, is what the Greens are going to do now. And the Greens, they're in a bit of a dilemma, Phil, and the reason for that is because a lot of what's on the table is stuff that is really core to them and things that they've been calling for months, if not years, and that's big spending on infrastructure, expanding the money that goes towards the military and defence. So on the one hand, you would think they should be obvious backers for such a policy, but we heard in my report there that there's a sense that Friedrich Merz really was dishonest with the voters, that he put his party ahead of the country, and that's because during the campaign, this election campaign that we had in recent months, he wasn't willing to confront the spending plans that the Greens were suggesting. He said that it was fantasy economics and that it had to be funded through cuts to the budget, and that borrowing would not be on the table for him. So they feel that he's been dishonest, and therefore there's a lack of trust there and goodwill. But on the other hand, they really are aware of the historic responsibility. As one person in the Greens said to me, they said that the talks will continue. We know that we have this historic responsibility to the country. So I think that in the end, a deal will be reached. The question is whether the Greens maybe say, OK, we'll back spending increases for the defence budget, but infrastructure you will have to deal with in the new Parliament.
OK, and that new Parliament starts in under 2 weeks. So why is there so much pressure to get this done now?
This is kind of intriguing, right? So In order to get these changes through, they require a change to the constitution because of Germany's very, very tight debt rules. And really, those two-thirds majorities that they require in the Bundestag are only available to the old Bundestag. That means that there's only a majority of the Social Democrats, the Christian Democrats and the Greens. In the new Bundestag, that would be blocked because the extreme left and the extreme right would have a blocking minority, so more than 30% or 33% of the votes in the Bundestag. So it would make it a lot more difficult to get it through. It means if they don't get things through this parliament, it means that they possibly might not get it through in the new parliament unless Friedrich Merz, the man who's likely to be the next chancellor, has to go with his cap in hand to the left party on the extreme left, who might not back his plans to send more money to the military, to defence spending, because they oppose increases in defence and take a very different approach on that issue.
OK, and now there's even a legal dispute over whether Friedrich Merz can actually try to change the country's constitution, this basic law, before the new parliament sits.
That's right. So we've heard lots of people from across Parliament question whether it's actually legal for the old Parliament to really to pass legislation like this. The alternative for Germany, they have filed a legal complaint at the Constitutional Court, and part of the argument they're making is saying, well, hold on a minute, if you can summon an emergency meeting of Parliament, surely you can summon an emergency meeting of the new Parliament until that we can bring forward the new Parliament swearing in. So we wait to see what the constitutional judges say on that issue. Now, Friedrich Merz has been very bullish. He says, look, it's got to be possible for German Parliament to act on any matter that is pressing, and that is what I'm doing now. I'm saying, look, this is a matter of huge urgency to Germany and to Europe and to the world, and it's got to be possible for us to take action, and that's what he's trying to push through now. But a lot of people saying that he's being quite cynical because he knows he wouldn't get it through in the new Parliament. We wait and see what the constitutional judges have to say about that. We expect a decision potentially on Monday.
Thanks, Matt. DW political correspondent Matthew Moore.